We've all heard and seen all of the headlines about the top rookies of the 2019 draft class. Guys like Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, RJ Barrett, even others like Rui Hachimura, who became an international sensation coming from Japan. And recently, I talked about Taco Fall and Bol Bol, two guys who were not picked in the first round but are pretty recognizable. These guys have been the talk of the town since they got drafted. Most fans are aware of who they are and they're definitely paying attention. But in this video, we're gonna take a look at 7 rookies who've been killing it and fans outside of their own fanbase need to start paying more attention to them. They look like they could be the real deal, but they're going under the radar. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Number 7, Matisse Thybulle. Now, Thybulle was the 20th pick of the draft, and despite playing significant minutes, he hasn't really shown too much in the early stages of the regular season yet. However, Thybulle impressed a lot of fans during preseason. In 5 preseason games, he only started once, but averaged over 7 points with nearly 3 steals a game. He was scouted to be a lockdown defender, and he certainly showed it in preseason. And I think defense is one of those things that translates very well into the actual games. He's a 6'6" shooting guard, but in his senior year of college at Washington, he averaged a ridiculous 3.5 steals and 2.3 blocks per game. That's freaking crazy for a shooting guard / small forward. Offensively, he was never anything impressive, nor do I think he'll ever be a great offensive player, but he's one of the most interesting prospects of the class. Number 6, Erick Pascal. With all the talk about the Warriors having a quite turbulent season with injuries and many new young players on their team, the expectations for them are pretty low this year. However, I still think they'll be fine because people forget that they're still one of the best organizations when it comes to developing young players. One of those young players happens to be Erick Pascal, the 41st overall pick, a 6'7" beast of a power forward. A few games into the regular season, he scored over 10 points a couple of times and showed a ton of hustle on the offensive glass. Him being picked all the way down at number 41 kinda reminds me of Draymond getting picked so late, and yet still providing immediate value for his team. Now, their skill sets are different, but their situations are similar. They're both undersized power forwards who spent their entire lives playing against bigger competition, and being heavily doubted along the way. I think Pascal will turn out to be a solid rotation player, maybe even a future starter. Number 5, Brandon Clarke. The Memphis Grizzlies have a very young team, which is really different compared to the last few years. Jay Crowder is now the oldest player on the team at just 29 years old. So far, Brandon Clarke has been their 6th man, coming off the bench and providing instant offense. Clarke was a very good shot blocker in college, averaging over 3 blocks a game, and that has definitely translated to the NBA. While he has an excellent motor and is adept at finishing in the paint, his overall offensive game isn't too versatile, but he has a lot of room to grow. While he won't be a starter over Jaren Jackson or Jonas Valanciunas, Clarke is the ideal big man to have off the bench. A high-energy, efficient player who knows how to play his role. And he's very good at keeping within his limits, going with the flow instead of forcing up shots. For a late first-round pick, he's exactly the type of player you want. Number 4, Tyler Herro. The Miami Heat are in an interesting spot. They have some good players, some great veterans, and a ton of young players under the age of 25. Most of them are unproven. Tyler Herro, who's already started a few games at shooting guard, is continuing where he left off after a successful preseason. While his shooting is always what he's been known for, he hasn't shot the ball too well in the early part of the season. However, he's shown more confidence taking guys off the dribble and attacking the rim, which were deemed as his biggest weaknesses coming into the draft. Defense is also projected to be an issue, especially with such limited physical tools. According to a scouting report, it said, "Possesses nice size for a guard measured at 6'6" in shoes at the NBA Combine, but has a below average 6'3" and a quarter wingspan and a 192-pound frame. He has tightened up his frame since his prep days but has room to get stronger." With only a 6'3" wingspan for a shooting guard, the dude is a freaking T-Rex. But we've seen other T-Rexes like JJ Redick have a successful career by mainly running off screens to get open shots and hitting them. At just 19 years old, Herro has already shown a bigger offensive repertoire than most other players labeled as spot-up shooters from a young age. Of course, as the season progresses, I don't think Herro will be the full-time starter with Jimmy Butler on the team, but maybe in the future he will. Number 3, Coby White. Yes, I do know Coby was the 7th overall pick, a very high selection for fans to not pay attention to him. However, he's gotten overshadowed by the big three and nobody's really paying attention to the Bulls, even though they've got a nice young core. In the second game of the season, he scored 25 points on 10 of 16 shooting and 4 of 8 from 3. However, inconsistency is the major issue with Coby, something that carried over from his days in college. There's no doubting his talent or his quickness or his ability to score. The question is, how often can he have games like this? He's a streaky shooter and sometimes an erratic player. NBA.com described his poor defense as one of the areas he needs to work on. Defensive instincts are lacking for White, and he is often guilty of getting out of a stance and getting beat because of it. Standing straight up doesn't allow him to use the speed he possesses, but unfortunately we see far too much of it from him. With his foot speed, you'd probably expect him to hound ball handlers and shoot passing lanes for steals, but that wasn't ever the case in college. And he currently doesn't project as a plus defender, and he quite possibly won't even be an average defender. Number 2, PJ Washington. Just like Erick Pascal, PJ is also a strong yet undersized power forward, listed at 6'7", 236 pounds. In his first ever NBA game, PJ scored 27 points on 7 of 11 from 3. Fun fact, that 27 points was the most number of points a rookie scored in his debut since 2002, when Gordon Guricek scored 29 points. But hopefully, PJ will have a longer and better career than Guricek. PJ was hyper-efficient even back in college, but it's a surprise his three-point shot improved so much since then. This performance was obviously an outlier, but he'll have a lot of opportunities in Charlotte to do more. The Hornets, for the last few years, they haven't really done anything. And after letting Kemba Walker walk in the offseason, it looks like the Hornets are back to square one, starting over and rebuilding again. PJ Washington will be a major piece in their rebuild, and as a very skilled big man who's shown a polished offensive game, there's potential that he could be the future cornerstone of a franchise. As a team, the Hornets still have a long way to go, but PJ is the guy they need to turn it around. And finally, number 1, Kendrick Nunn. Maybe Kendrick shouldn't be on this list, cause I'm sure more and more people are starting to recognize him. As of right now, and I know it's very early in the season, he looks like he has a legit chance to win Rookie of the Year. With Zion Williamson out of the picture for now, it's a very realistic possibility. He's gotta be the most impressive rookie so far because nobody saw him coming. He wasn't even part of this draft class, he went undrafted last year in 2018. Now, at 24 years old, he's living his dream, playing the best basketball of his entire life. He scored 40 points in a preseason game, which garnered a lot of attention, and he's currently had a string of amazing NBA games. When talking about his recent success and who he models his game after, Nunn stated, quote, "I studied the elite guards in the NBA. I have good footwork like CJ McCollum, he's real crafty. The elite guards, point guards, that's where my game will go to another level, just studying that." He also added on that he definitely wants to be an all-star in the near future, with expectations of the Miami Heat making the playoffs this season. I mentioned in a recent video that I believe the Miami Heat are a sleeper team. Nobody's really paying attention to them because just from looking at their roster, it doesn't look like anything special. But their young players, namely Nunn and Herro, they're certainly special young players, and are playing far above their expectations, especially Nunn. For a team that was middling in mediocrity for years, it looks like they now have a good foundation to build off of. Anyway, that's all folks, those were 7 NBA rookies that you need to pay more attention to. If you've already been watching them, that's great, but for those who haven't, these guys are killing it so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about other rookies to look out for. Thank you everybody so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.